Oh, is there anything better than a demold? That noise that it makes and all those colors and oh no, wait a minute, we didn't do the work. Welcome to House of Papillons. Hi, I'm Terry. Thank you for joining me on this beautiful resin journey. Today we're going to be working on this gorgeous handmade jewel toned or jewel faceted mold from Into Resin. And today we're going to start out with UV resin from Let's Resin. It's their regular viscosity UV resin. And I've added some red alcohol ink to start out. We're going to try and make some of these facets look like rubies. Who doesn't like a jewel? I love jewels. I love them all. So as you can see, I'm dripping some of this in here. Some of it will get a little bit faster as I do it. Just trying to get a feel for the mold, get a feel for what we're doing. As you can see, I dripped a little spot there that I don't intend to be there. And that's really easy to clean up. You can either cure the whole thing and then just peel that out of there and move on, or you can clean it up as you go with just a little Q-tip or a little tool that can scrape that out of there. But that really shouldn't be any problem as we move ahead. Now, you'll be noticing that I do cure, or I partially cure, each of these as I go along, because I don't want them to bleed into one another, and I don't want there to be, if I overflow another one, it's not going to somehow mess up the one before it. So I just do a very light cure as we move along, because all of these will be getting the lamp several times throughout this project. So eventually I come to some of the bigger ones that I can actually pour it in, and that's really fun to do too. Now, this is not a quick project. This is not a fast project. Some of my projects moving forward will be pretty quick, but some of them are time consuming. I love the time consuming ones, as long as I have time to do them. All of us have, different points in life where we have more time than others, but I find this very satisfying and relaxing. Now we're moving on to the green. It's actually it's Let's Resin's alcohol ink, and it is in emerald green because these are supposed to look like emeralds when we're finished. So you might have seen, I have at the beginning of this video, I had some cups that were all lined up in sort of a little tray. And what I do when I'm doing UV projects like this, you don't have to feel bad if you mix a little bit too much of your color in that UV resin. I keep a tray that has all kinds of colors mixed from various projects, and it will stay there literally for weeks and not cure, as long as I just cover the tray with a piece of cardboard or a thick piece of paper, so that the light in the room can't cure it. But as long as you don't put it right in front of a window or put a UV lamp on it, they will stay. They will stay liquid and stay exactly as you want them to be going forward. So you're not gonna have waste, in other words, by doing it this way. I have some projects that I've had the cups sitting there for weeks and weeks, and they still didn't cure because I've kept them covered. So that's just a little tip from me to you as we work on our sapphires. And we've got some dark orchids so that we can have some amethysts in there. Don't know if you know this, but diamonds, rubies, sapphires, and emeralds, they are considered precious stones. And then when we move into amethyst and citrine and aquamarine and those kinds of stones, they are semi-precious stones, but they're all precious to me. I love a nice shiny jewel stone, gemstone. So as you can see, my little tool here is working just fine to get some of those drips out so that I'm not overfilling any of these. And you might want to notice kind of my method to doing it. I mean, you know, there's 100 different ways that you could probably do something like this. But as you saw, I started with red, and I kind of sporadically put them throughout the piece, and then I moved on to the other colors. And what I'm doing is I put them randomly, you know, throughout. I mix up my resin, place them randomly so that we don't have, you know, 6 red stones next to each other. We have them nicely dispersed throughout the piece. So once I get this first round of these stones, or the resin in the color, in the different colors, once I get that in, then I go backwards and I'll do more red. I'll, you know, add things in. So that's kind of the method that I do. I'll do more red, more blue, more green, because as it gets more and more full, I'll be able to see what color is sort of missing in a particular area. So that's just how I do it. I find it very relaxing, very satisfying. I hope that it's not boring to you. I've actually sped this up because, you know, it can take hours. And this is also the kind of project that you don't have to do it in one sitting. You can, you know, do some of it, cover your resin, you know, go take the dog for a walk or do whatever. You can come back the next day. It's not something that you have to do in one sitting. I tried to do a lot of it in one sitting because I was filming it to be able to show. But it sure is worth all the effort. It really, really is. So now we're on to dandelion yellow, which would be sort of, I guess, like a citrine. That orange was more like a topaz or like a fire opal. Speaking of fire, you saw me take a little long neck lighter and hold it up. And I did that so that there are some surface bubbles that come up that I'm able to take care of at the time, right there on the spot. And be really careful using any kind of flame. There's no way I would use an actual torch with these handmade molds. I use a lighter, but it's not very close to the resin. It's hovering very far above very far above the resin and the mold. The very last thing I would want to do is damage this mold. As you know, the into resin molds can be costly. I do own a few of them, and I'm very careful with them, and I think about which ones I want for quite a while before I actually order them. But the ones that I've gotten, they are seriously worth it. They have put some major work into creating and developing these molds. So you are going to see, I think I have one more color left, 2 more colors. We have the peridot, and then we have aquamarine. Speaking of peridot, I always used to call it peridot, but it's called peridot, I was recently told. So there you have it. Little factoid. Hopefully that is fascinating to you. But I just find these colors just mesmerizing and just gorgeous. And like I said, the finished project is stunning. So once I get this first layer of the first round of these colors, I speed it up to like 900% or something. I I kind of toyed with the idea of just not showing the whole thing, but I know that, the point is to show us doing these projects. So I didn't want to not show doing all of the steps. So I just went ahead and sped it up really fast. So here's aquamarine, and it was meant to be either a blue topaz, or this is much more like an aquamarine stone because it's very, very pale, and also equally as gorgeous. What's your favorite stone? Let me know in the comments. Are you a diamond type of person, or do you like the colored stones? I'll tell you, mine, it depends on what day of the week it is or what hour of the day. I'm all over the place. So as we finish up on this aquamarine, and we speed it up to finish the project, I'm actually going to play some music on here so that you can just relax. You don't have to listen to me yammer on, and you can kick back and relax and look at the pretty colors. since we're finishing up the resin part, or the UV resin part of this project, next what we're going to do, I did spray it. Now these molds you are really not supposed to spray, but since it's now covered with this UV resin, I went ahead and sprayed it. I'm using Let's Resin 2-part epoxy it's a 1-to-1 mixing epoxy to give a clear background to this entire notebook. I didn't want to color because that will take away from these stones that we've worked so hard on. So I want it to be clear behind it, and then we will let this part cure. And now that it's cured, we're gonna get to finally demold this part. But stay around for the end of this, because you're gonna get a little bonus. Oh, the crunching of the demolding is just awesome. I think this is everybody's favorite part. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? Wait for it. Wait for it. Oh, stunning. Stunning. Look at the facets. Look at the sparkle. Look at the shine. Just doesn't get any better than that. There was a little tiny bit of overpour, and that just snaps right off. And the edges of this are a little bit scalloped. They did kind of a little texture to the edges, and this overpour just pops right off of that. It doesn't change it one little bit. Now we're getting ready to get to the bonus. This is a double project in one. So I wanted the back of this notebook to be clear. And so I'm doing clear resin. This is just 4 ounces also of the Let's Resin. And I'm pouring it high and really thin to try and eliminate the possibility of bubbles, the little micro bubbles. I did this mold before in the colors, and one of the problems is that you end up getting micro bubbles in between all of these little facets. So I'm hoping to alleviate that with this pour. And now we're going to demold our back. The back will look like diamonds. So you're literally getting just about every gemstone or gemstone color that there is. Sure, there's way more gemstones than I've done here. But this is just stunning. Look at the little colors that it's bringing up in this. So now we're going to put our notebook together. You get a little pack of paper, and there are little the little hinges that you buy, and you just snap them together just like a loose leaf notebook. And I usually only use half a pack of paper, because the full pack with the thickness of the back and the front of the notebook, it won't close. So no biggie, just use half a pack of paper. You can add in more when you want. So this is today's project. I really appreciate you joining me. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Please like and subscribe so that we'll be able to visit again. And I appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.